There's never a shortage of juicy stuff. What are you talking about?
Oh man, not around like these parts. Hi everybody, welcome to DigiByte and Friends. I'm joined today by Laura Taylor, also known as LT Loves Digi on Twitter. Laura, why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself, and tell us what's been going on with you.
Thanks for having me, first of all. Thanks for doing DigiByte and Friends. I absolutely love this series.
Of course.
I've learned so much already. But a little bit about me. I am a core member of the DigiByte awareness team. I've been working with them for about a year and a half. I joined last July. And my role for the awareness team is, we all wear different hats,
Yep.
but predominantly mine's community outreach, right?
A nice white DigiByte hat, yeah.
I know, look, speaking of hats, I just got I got this DigiByte hat with the DigiByte underneath it because when I go to conferences and I have like anything that just says DigiByte, they go, "Is that Dash?" And so I was getting sick of it, so I got a special one.
With obviously, with the D especially is very similar in things. Well, okay. I mean, maybe we can even talk a little bit about some of those conferences and things that you have been to as well.
Right. So that's what I do for the awareness teams. I focus on trying to get out to conferences. I host a local meetup with Rebecca from the Litecoin community.
That's,
and here in
lemonade,
Pittsburgh.
I believe.
Yeah, I make lemonade. That's a funny story. But so anyway, we're both in Pittsburgh, and so we started to meet up here, and it's going great. And so I really, my role for the team is just focusing on education, outreach, community development, that sort of stuff. But we're just, we're all pitching in where we can kind of thing.
Obviously, because it is something where you have to give of your own time. These are not paid roles, I suppose, compared to other places where we've seen ICOs have a big war chest of funds. They can employ people full-time. You're literally doing this just because you love it, you love the project, and because you wanted to get away from learning guitar, right? That's
right. I want to get away from a normal life. I actually, I discovered DigiByte later after I, kind of got into researching blockchain, and it was probably about a year into, kind of getting this on my radar and really digging deep. And I was absolutely. It was just, I had like a list, it's kind of like if you're single and you have this like the list of your dream guy.
Right.
And if you find that one that checks off the list, you're like, what? Well, I had this like my dream blockchain, and it had all these things. And for me, the biggest thing was, login security, because that is a joke. And also, highly decentralized and the alternative option to fiat currency. So I was like, when I ran across DigiByte, and they also had to have like a really good welcoming community, because I've been in the space for about a year. Mm-hmm. People can be kind of rough.
Did you start off like most people with Bitcoin, and then like what happened after that?
So I, kind of did a deep dive into Bitcoin, started getting really interested in that. And, I looked at different other projects, really looked at Litecoin, and I do like Litecoin, like a lot of the work they're doing in the space. And
they certainly tick that friendly community box, especially on Twitter and things.
They're, they really care about like connecting with people, educating people, and we just, as many people as we can get, with their eyes on it. I'm not telling anybody to buy anything. I just want people to get their eyes on it. You know what I mean? Like, you can buy it or not buy it. I don't care. I just want you to know it exists.
Sure.
And so I think they've just done an amazing job of getting that boots on the ground action. And so that's why I'm hoping to help, the DigiByte community. And there's a bunch of us working with them to try and get that more, get that ball rolling for DigiByte like it's rolling for Litecoin.
Sure. Now, so you mentioned specifically going to meetups and the likes. Actually, did you want to kind of finish off before we go down that path, talking about what your ideal blockchain man, like tick list, whatever would look like?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. So my ideal blockchain. So it had to be highly decentralized. It had to have security focused. Mm-hmm. It had to be open source. I was really I don't want to be a maximalist about things, but I really just, I'm not a developer, so I'm making my decisions from my perspective. But I think the UTXOs, open source UTXOs, are the ones that I was just gravitating towards. For like so many reasons. And then when I realized that DigiByte also had the 5 mining algorithms, and that had DigiShield, and it was helping other projects with their own networks, and that really intrigued me. And then it was right around the time that you started doing the Venezuela stuff. And so really, when I first started researching DigiByte, I was watching you and Jared, I was watching your videos, and you were so humanitarian focused. And you just, the ideals of the community, I just kind of gravitated towards. And then when I got into the community, I was just floored, like so much talent and great people here. So it was just, all of those things. I'm like, let's get married,
It's funny you mention that, as somebody who's gone through a divorce, kind of looking for what you want the next time around, I'll maybe be prepared to compromise a little bit on this, but like this is a must. And
right, exactly. I learned so much. So no, it's just been it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work, but watching everybody on the team, like we all kind of got in when we, because I came on board shortly after they formed. And so we all kind of got in, and we were just kind of like looking around like, okay, so what are we doing? Like making memes, or like, what is it? And so then we realized, we're like, oh my gosh, you guys, we can do a lot. And so because it's open, it's permissionless, like we don't have to ask for someone's permission. And we have such a diverse, because you work so closely with the developers and the miners. It's amazing.
It's very liberating to kind of come to that understanding, I suppose. Almost quite daunting to begin with. Like, where do we actually start? Like, what do we begin with, right? Like, how do we...
That's a hard question, yeah. Like, how do you prioritize? Yeah, no, it's a hard question. And then you have all these people, kind of simultaneously working, and you're trying to optimize working together. And it's a really, I think that one day DigiByte's going to be studied in case studies for decentralization, because we're watching it. Like, we're watching what decentralization looks like as it matures and grows out and, builds. It's like a human network effect, and it's pretty cool to watch.
It is. And I feel personally like we are on the cusp of something here, like, right on the verge of something, life-changing, really, for a lot
right.
of... And I'm not specifically just talking about the monetary side where we have Moon Boys, but I'm more specifically talking about the like both the self-sovereignty for humanity, the being able to specifically trust what is on a blockchain versus... we've seen it especially in America with money being printed lately.
Oh, God. It's stunning, right? I'm like, am I getting punked right now? Yeah. It's hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's not, but it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Who would have thought, like, the timing of it and things. It's also really interesting that you mentioned as well about what was going on with Venezuela and kind of, I suppose, the whole humanitarian aspect there. Are you aware of the Mine for Mud that happened back in 2014?
No, I don't think so.
So Mine for Mud, actually, it's really quite interesting because this is going way back to kind of more of the grassroots. Well, the whole thing is a grassroots effort. Back to the origins, I suppose, of this grassroots movement and kind of inspiring it from the beginning was the idea that we could mine for mud. And so what people did was there were mudslides back in the day that affected a lot of homes, displaced a number of families and things like that. And so what happened was the DigiByte community got together with a couple of others, like Dogecoin. I believe this was slightly before we helped Dogecoin implement DigiShield. And even back then, they mined for 24 or 48 hours and donated the proceeds from that towards the victims of these displaced families from the mudslides and things. So they called it Mine for Mud. It was a great initiative, and it was great even back in early 2014 to see DigiByte and the broader community getting behind that kind of humanitarian effort. And so it's really interesting that you mentioned that was specifically how you found out about DigiByte as well around that time. So
To me, I feel like that, and it's not here's the thing. I mean, it's the people in this community that want to help other communities. It's not a marketing ploy. And you can see it. When I watched your videos and you were talking about Venezuela, it wasn't like, I'm going to shill DigiByte and I'm going to do it through looking like a good guy. These people who are trying to work and help this project, they're trying to help this project help other people. And I think that's what's so different about a lot of the, the open source communities. And I'm not saying all, but like that's the thing that's, that's a volunteerism mindset that kind of that's what I'm drawn towards. And so like people like you, honestly, Josiah, people have no clue how much you actually work. I mean, it looks like you work a lot, but I just want to tell Cryptoland that like Josiah works probably 100 times more than what you think you work.
We
it's
talk
crazy.
A lot kind of outside of just the camera or the main group chats and things, and I mean the same can obviously be seen for you. It's very quite interesting because a lot of people might only see that that one photo that you'll put up when you're at the conference and hey, you're here with somebody. And
I'm really bad about self-promoting. I know I am.
Well, but it's interesting as well because so one of the things that has been said, I actually get a lot of flack for that, is offering to help out other projects. And oftentimes people will say, well, why don't you spend a lot more time why don't you focus on just DigiByte? You do your thing. Why are you not focused on that? And it's like, well, it's permissionless, so I don't have to just devote my time to DigiByte, and I'm sure you're well aware as well. There's nothing wrong with you being out there and also saying, hey, look, while we're at this blockchain conference, let's also talk to some people about Litecoin, for example. Let's talk about Bitcoin in general. And it's funny as well, because having now helped the likes of... I originally showed the Verge developers multi-shield back last year sometime, I think just almost like coming up 18 months ago now. And the likes of that, we've just heard news today, I suppose that will be out by the time that we film that this is published next week. I hope it will be. Navcoin have actually just been added to the iOS App Store, resulting from the help which came from DigiByte and Friends. So again, that kind of like that sort of help, that's very interesting that you mentioned that, because this is specifically what I wanted DigiByte and Friends to be, a mutually beneficial DigiByte and our friends. And so you mentioning that is quite perfect, really.
Well, and that's the thing. I was thinking about it today because I was getting excited about our talk, and I was like, what am I going to talk about? So I was thinking about like what I want to talk about. One of the things when it comes to open source technology like this, if you can find a way to collaborate with different people with different knowledge sets, and you can really have discussions, then that's when nobody can stop you from building. And who knows what you can do? Who knows what you can get? You've already seen the effects in the first, 5 episodes of DigiByte and Friends. Like, oh, this is actually helping another project. And, and whether that's technology advancement or whether it's marketing or education advancement, it's like the more that we can kind of have discussions and work together, the faster it will grow. Yeah. And I think the more responsibly it will grow is kind of like the bigger, it's like, it's not going to just be like Wind Moon people. It's like, these are people who have invested a lot of time and effort to learn the technology and have real use cases that are honest.
Yeah. And I really hope as well that it's not just specifically DigiByte giving to others, although that's obviously nice for us to be able to do that, also to be able to benefit from these other things. So, for example, the discussions about decentralized autonomous organizations, or even better, Prog POW. Prog POW is something that we're actually looking very, very seriously at implementing. And so there's I'd say a pretty high chance at the moment that over the next couple of weeks we'll see something happening there. So that's really quite exciting to see this all coming to fruition as a result of that. And it's very inspiring as well, obviously, to see you there, like you mentioned, hanging out with Rebecca at you've started up Blockchain in the Berg. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and about some of the education, specifically maybe, I suppose, some of the what you found about starting that kind of education?
Okay. And for anybody who doesn't know, I teach college math, and I've been teaching for like 17 years. And so I'm a natural educator anyway. And so when I first learned about all this, I, taught my students about it. I talked to my friends. And so we kind of grew a meetup out of that in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I ran a meetup there for about 2 years, and so what we did was we created like these. It's a study group, because that's really what it started as for us. Like, it was like me and some former students and some friends meeting every Saturday night for sushi and red wine and talking about blockchain.
That sounds like a great night, though. Really. Yeah,
it was. Oh, I loved our Saturday nights, but it started getting bigger, and more people wanted to come to my house, and I didn't know, and I was like, let's just start a formal meetup. So we ended up, we had a great meetup, and we could get people. You came to our meetup. You piped in from New Zealand. Remember?
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
And that was the coolest thing to me about the meetups is I had just ran across DigiByte. My sister put it on my radar, and because I'm super picky, and she knows, and she was like, "You got to check out DigiByte," and I'm like, "We'll see about this one." And then I'm like, "What?" So anyway, it was about a couple weeks after I got in the community, and then I just reached out to you on Telegram, and I was like, "Hey, I got a meetup. Can you pipe in?" And you're like, "Sure, no problem." And you respond to me like within like an hour. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's like one of the kind of most active people in the community with this project," and he responded like that, and then piped in and educated our entire community in Wilmington, North Carolina about DigiByte. And so it's like, that's what I love about those meetups is they're just really cool study groups. You pick a topic you want to learn about, and you just ask people to come talk. And we had the architect, we had the lead architect from Hashgraph pipe in from Canada. We've had CPAs that know about crypto come in and do talks. So it's like, that's what I love about the meetups is it is about education, and this is so big. I mean, all of this is just super huge. And because I think I teach math, I think about reducing the learning curve for people all the time. And so
a big learning curve for crypto, like
so big. And and I really feel for those, coming in. I mean, in some ways they have it easier, in some ways they have it harder. We came in before use cases were really there. It was more, it was a lot more speculative, more of a grand idea, more of a risk taker kind of mentality, innovator kind of mentality. And then as the next group comes in, they're not as they don't take those kind of risks. Like, they're not going to go, I can't believe I joined Telegram. I mean, I'm like, what am I doing on Telegram? I just took the risk to get. But most people just are not going to get on Telegram to learn about this stuff, and so that's our next wave. And so I think these meetups, conferences, and really, when I say conferences, I mean the ones that are like reasonably priced. I've heard about these conferences. I mean, it's honestly, it's stupid. It's insane. I mean, I get it. I mean, I get that, space is expensive, but you don't have to do it that way. I mean, you can, contact a school. I know, exactly. You can contact us. You don't have to have strippers and Lambos. You don't have to. I mean, it just depends on what your audience is. But so I think that, one of the things that I like to look at to try and, get places to, go host a meetup is, reach out to your local schools. I mean, really, if you can get, a dedicated room space once or twice a month and say, hey, we want a group to come in here and study this, learn this, have the discussion. It doesn't take much, and like we're really lucky. Well, in Wilmington, we were sponsored by an incubator startup. It had just amazing high tech space. So they sponsored us for a once a month meetup, and then right now cool. we're getting. Not sponsorship, but Nova Place, where we're holding our meetups in Pittsburgh. They're giving us some free slots to, nice. Help us get our feet up underneath us. But there's places that will want to sponsor you to have, space available. So, those that to me is like the core of community education is meetups.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a really good segue. I was about to ask you, like, what's the best way to get started on this kind of thing? If somebody's watching this right now and they're going, that's great, there's nothing in my area, how can I begin? So reaching out to schools, obviously, for hosting is a great place. What else would you recommend to people?
It could be as big or as little as you want. You know what I mean? So it just depends on the person. Like if you don't have a lot of resources, then I would say keep it super simple. We actually have steps on how to start a meetup on the DigiByte.org website. So it kind of goes through these, but you can use the meetup.com website. So that's free. So you can advertise. You can advertise on Twitter. If you're doing something like that, let the awareness team know. We'll help advertise. We have an events page. FOMO Hunt is another way you can advertise your meetup, and you can check at schools. Even if you went to a park, even if you reserved one of those pavilions at a public park and just said, "Hey, let's all get together." It's ideally to have Wi-Fi is kind of the ideal, but but do what you have to do to at least create a space to bring people. You'd be surprised. When I moved to Pittsburgh, Rebecca has been here, I think, her whole life. And so she did, when I first moved here, the first thing I looked for was blockchain meetups. And it's not a lot. And I was kind of surprised for a town this size. And so when I moved here, I connected with Rebecca and we met for lunch. And I said, well, there's not really much in the area. And she was like, yeah, I know. There's not a lot of crypto people here. I'm like, well, why don't we start a meetup? And she was like, okay. And so our first meetup, we had 45 people there, I think. And we've had more people come and contact us that have local blockchain startups. The guy who's coming, who's speaking at our meetup next week has a really cool startup called Credible Assets. And he's pretty OG in this space. And he's going to, give us some, high level discussion on blockchain and decentralization and use cases. So nice. You just don't, and he came up to us in our last meetup and was like, hey, this is what I do. This is who I am. I'd love to help. So if you just create a space, you would be shocked at how many people come to you, whether or not they have blockchain knowledge. Maybe they don't have blockchain knowledge, but they own a wine shop and they've got a room in the back and they're offering to host you. Yep. You know what I mean? You just don't know the opportunities until you kind of create that space. Because Rebecca was today we were talking and she said, I can't believe how many people in Pittsburgh are into blockchain. And she was like, I thought I was the only one. And so nice. You just never know. So I would say, don't be scared. Just, keep it simple and let it grow. If you were to also kind of think back to maybe 2 or 3 things, little roadblocks that you hit along the way, what kind of advice would you offer to Laura from 18 months ago? Right. Well, I would say, don't pay for anything. I mean, you can get everything you need for free. You shouldn't, if you find yourself paying a bunch of money to host a meetup, you're doing it wrong. So I would say, one thing I didn't utilize was, public newspapers, contact your newspaper, do a little press release for your meetup. I mean, get it on radars. Don't be shy, and it never hurts to ask. So it's if you're going to have a meetup, contact, your local newspaper or Gazette or whatever and say, hey, can you, run this? Because really all of this is the problem. Let me say it like this. Specifically, and this, just that DigiByte is so under, it's not under, it's undervalued, but it flies under the radar a lot. It's under the radar. I'm struggling on it, but it's under the radar to the point where you're just like, what? You haven't heard of DigiByte? When I meet people who are in the industry and they're like, I'd never heard of DigiByte. I'm like, really? And so it made me realize, linguistically, we have a real problem here. And so even if people don't come to the meetup, if you can get in the Gazette, that there is a blockchain meetup or there is a DigiByte meetup, they start seeing the words more and more. And I don't know what the magic number of words somebody has to see in order before a light bulb comes on, but there's got to be a number, right? And so anything you can do in your community to say this is out there, whether or not they come, you're still putting that out there. Does that make sense? Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. I think
it's difficult to start. I think that's kind of like, personally, that was one of the things. So especially with the likes of DigiByte and Friends or the Daily Update, I had a friend, again on Telegram, he was messaging me going, look, why don't you you're always talking about this and you're putting tweets out and telling people, why don't you do something like that? And so I think I would kind of add to that encouragement and say to people, you can do this, you can get out there, you can start. It can be a little bit daunting, but there are people out here who are willing to help you and support you and offer resources.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing too. Like I said, I'm not a developer, and as far as the technical stuff, I mean, there's a lot I don't know, and but my phone a friend list is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I've got you, I've got Matthew, I've got Noah. I mean,
Yep.
if I have a question, I can get it answered so fast because I'm part of the DigiByte community. And I want to say, for anybody out there, you don't have to be special. You're part of the DigiByte community. You're already special.
Yeah.
So if you're hosting a meetup and let's say you get in the weeds and someone asks you a technical question, get on Telegram, go to the main channel, go to the support channel, and be like, I'm at my meetup right now and I've got this question I can't answer. Can I have some answers, please? And you'll get like 5. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not doing it alone. Nobody's doing it alone. If you're working with DigiByte, you're working with an entire team of people who want to see you succeed.
It's actually interesting that you mentioned that specifically about not understanding all of the technicals. Very much, I was watching an interview yesterday with Peter McCormick, and he is a self-professed non-techie dude, but yet at the same time he hosts what is arguably the most popular crypto podcast on the planet. So just because somebody is not specifically super technical, again, don't let that put you off. And this probably segues really quite well into the fact that you are also a teacher yourself. You mentioned that you've taught math and things, but obviously blockchain is a little bit different, and it's not directly part of the curriculum there. So what are your thoughts on, I suppose, how you've mentioned that you've slipped it into your class a couple times?
I was in the beginning. In the beginning, I was actually pretty obnoxious. I didn't even slip it in. I just stopped calculus for 2 days and said, we're going to learn, because it was bugging me, I had spent the whole summer researching and gotten the bug, went down the rabbit hole and whatever. And then fall, my classes started back and I couldn't think about anything else. It was just constantly on my brain. And so it was just bugging me. I was teaching STEM students. They're going into computer engineering and medicine.
Perfect.
And, yeah, exactly. I've got to get this to them. And so my sister was actually the one who turned me on to Bitcoin and turned me on to DigiByte. She's actually getting her master's in digital currencies right now from UNIC.
Nice.
So she's almost done. Yeah, I'm excited for her. And so she was the one who kind of turned me onto this stuff. So I said to her, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to take 2 days off of my regular curriculum and I'm going to just teach blockchain. Just get it on their radars. And she was like, oh my God, Laura, no, you're going to get fired. And I was like, I'm not going to give them investment advice. I'm going to just tell them that this is coming, It's like telling somebody about the internet in 1994, who's going into computers.
Yep.
So anyway, so I did.
The responsible thing to do, really.
You know what? I'm glad you used that word because I tweeted out after, I do this every once in a while. It's like, if you are a teacher at any level, at any age, and you know about this stuff, it's irresponsible of you not to find a way to put it on your students' radars. They're going to be the one that take us into mass adoption. I want them to be educated.
Yeah. Well, again, interestingly, going back to the Venezuela, that was one of the things that we did was when we raised some money for to send over there with David Hay. We also sent some tablets across as well for students so that they could get involved both in learning another language, so they were learning Spanish and English, and so they were able to use the tablets for that, but they were also able to learn with the DigiByte application how digital currencies work, how blockchains work, and things like that. So again, I think this is fantastic, being able to educate tomorrow's leaders, I suppose, is probably the best way of looking at it. Or tomorrow's, like you said, your sister's about to graduate in that kind of a class. Like, if we're not out there teaching people about it, how are they going to know that this is going to be world-changing? How are we going to prepare them?
Exactly. And you know, there are a lot of different, you know, educational options. And I mean, there's a lot of people right now trying to create educational material, and there's some really good educational material out there that's free. And we also, on the DigiByte.org website, we have an education page.
Nice.
And so it kind of breaks down like what's some free education options, what are some paid education options, and like what to look for when you're, you know, depending on what it is you're trying to educate yourself on, because it's pretty vast. Like some people might want to become a developer, and some people just want to figure out how to open up a hardware wallet. You know what I mean? You know, like, yeah. So it's like there's a pretty wide range. And so if I were like talking to let's say you were a middle school teacher, and like, how do you plant this seed? And really you can think about it. And I love, you know, Kat and the group, a lot of the Litecoin team started this seed card initiative, you know. And so it is about just planting some seeds. People are naturally curious. And, you know, if you don't want to get into the technical with the younger students, just get into the idea of what is decentralization. Mm-hmm. Because even just getting your mind around that beyond the technical, you know, your mind around this idea of self-sovereignty and what does that mean, that is, I remember when I first started like watching videos on DigiByte, and I watched a video on you, and you said it's a paradigm shift, and so, you know, it really intrigued me when you said that, because I was like, okay, it was the first time I really heard someone call it a paradigm shift, and it really it really stuck with me. And I'm like, so what exactly is the paradigm shift? Mm-hmm. You know, because it could be so many different things, and for me, I think it's the self-sovereignty idea, because then it's a whole nother world. When you take your own actions, take your own actions into account, your own consequences. And it's not to say don't help other people. I think it actually empowers people to help other people more. For
sure. Yeah. But at the same time, you're then no longer reliant on somebody else, such as a government or the likes, to decide how much money there should be, I suppose.
Right. And I think, you know, we're going to, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things too, when it comes to meetups in education, like Rebecca and I reached out to a congressman from Ohio. Senator from Ohio, who's interested in, and I think John Moore had just gone to see him talk, and I tweeted about it, and I was like, come talk to us, come teach, you know, he knows about crypto, and, you know, he sees it as a revolutionary factor. I'm like, come talk to our local politicians, come talk to our community. And so that's another thing with, if you can create a space where people can gather, your politicians can gather with you. You know, your local government can gather with you, and they can learn about this, because we need them to implement better solutions. Yep. And apparently most of them don't realize that these solutions exist. Yeah. So because nobody's talking about it, and it's starting to irritate me. And Josiah, you know, I'm not a patient woman. So I think we have to, you know, pull those politicians, demand they learn, demand they engage in the conversation, and not just dismiss it as some fringe idea. It's obviously not going away. Will it change form? Absolutely. I don't know if we're like in the beta or the VHS or, you know, the first television level of technology involvement with this, but we're definitely not going away, you know?
Well, that's actually a really good kind of point there. How would you, or how do you decide at what kind of level you're going to approach things for people, and also for like how what you're going to teach them? Do you kind of come at everybody full bore? Do you kind of start with something surface level? How does that differ between like kids versus your students versus a politician? What's some advice you've got there?
No, that's great. Well, so I do change it up depending on who I'm talking to for how long and what the kind of end result is. So like I really like community forums. I think because this is such a broad space, it's nice to get people like 4 or 5 people at a table where the community can ask them questions, because usually you can maybe have somebody who's really good with mining, or someone who's really good with programming, or someone's really good with, the philosophy of decentralization, so you can kind of have people who are good to speak on different points, and together you make a good presentation. And
Without
individually we probably would
be our Captain Planet.
Exactly. It's like I always describe us as the Avengers. Whenever we're just we have a lot of redheads on the DigiByte team too, which I think is interesting. But anyway, that's just funny. But so I'm cracking myself up now. But so I do think that when I'm speaking to a general audience, I always do start though with asking what level do you think you are, and try to get a temperature on the room. But I usually keep it pretty high level and just kind of equate blockchain to the evolution of the internet. And there's a video from 1994 from Good Morning America, and I show this, and it's absurd the way they're talking about the internet, because they look so, they just look so ignorant, and so everybody laughs, and I'm like, okay, that's where we are right now. We're in 1994, and this is the evolution of the internet. So you guys might be looking at us like we're crazy or whatever, but in that clip they had Bill Gates saying, well, someone asked him, do you think people will get on the internet? And he was like, well, I think it's considered hip to be on the internet right now. That's what he said. That was his response. So you know what I mean? So we're kind of there. So I like to keep it broad and equate it to something they already know as a technology, as a technology
more higher
evolution.
Level, planting the seed when you're in a broader...
Just be like, do you remember the internet? Okay, things evolve. This is a second evolution. Yep. So I do for general that. I did do that continuing ed course for my community college, and you were so sweet because I didn't create. They told me we want you to teach this course. It's a intro to blockchain. It was 24 hours long, and for an intro course, and I was just like, wow, that's a lot of time to fill. And so I kind of broke it down, and I tried to kind of whittle it into high level, what is centralization, decentralization, and then I was like, what is Bitcoin, what is Litecoin, and the other altcoins, and
you could still fill 24 hours pretty easy, I'd imagine, though.
Yeah, you can, but it's hard though, because these people, you can get in the weeds really easy too, though, because if you go too deep, these are people who are taking this course that are kind of like, I don't know what's going on. So it's hard because you don't want to push too hard and blow their minds, but they're curious. So it's like a weird balance.
Right.
And so what I did was I tried to whittle it down, started up high level, and then got a little bit more technical. And then at the very end, I wanted to talk about mining and what that meant, and how it's done. And you actually took your lunch break to teleconference into my class, and they told me, and I felt kind of bad because, well, not bad, but so I have been teaching them 2 nights a week for whatever, a few weeks. And then we had you come in and teleconference in, and this is what I want to tell everybody. It's like, not that I'm, pimping you out to everybody who's going to have a course, but
Joe is now available for you.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a lunch break from.
But this is a large community. If you go into the miners channel and say, hey, I'm teaching a course, I'd really love one of you miners to pipe in on a teleconference. You're not the only person. A lot of people might think you might be the only person, but you're not. And so we have a huge community of supporters that would support you educating your community, just
Absolutely.
Like you supported me. But after that class, I said, well, that was really good. And one of the guys, the really smart one, I think the one I hooked you up with.
I was talking with him a bit afterwards, yeah.
I forgot his name, but but anyway, he says, yeah, that's definitely the best class we ever had. And I'd only talked for like 3 minutes the whole time. It was you. And they're like, I just had my little cell phone because none of my technology was working. So I had my little cell phone and they're all huddled over the cell phone, just asking you questions. You would have thought like, I don't know, like Barbara Streisand was on the other line. And my mom was just like, oh my God, Barbara. They're like, oh my God, this is a real miner from New Zealand. I mean, they thought that was so cool.
Is that kind of, I mean, like expanding on that a little more, do you think that kind of that personal touch from people rather than because, so you mentioned that you've had the ability to go through and kind of define what you want your classes and things like that to be. Do you feel like that personal touch, like where you took 2 days to just have a break from calculus and we're just going to discuss blockchain, is that personal touch something that's going to get more people interested, involved, or is it too time consuming?
No, I think it's what we need. I mean, we need like just like everyday real people just going and talking to their communities. Like I had one of the guys who came to our meetup in Wilmington, his son was in middle school and he had come to I had like just like a presentation, I did a community presentation. So he came to that and said, well, would you come talk to my son's class? And I said, sure, no problem. And then what he ended up doing was he talked to they have something called AIG, which is like a academically gifted program in that county. And so he talked to the AIG teacher and she set me up not to speak to his class, but to speak to all the AIG teachers for the county. So it's like, you just don't know, like, so then I got to talk to, I love talking to students, but really if you can talk to the teachers and say, guys, look at this. This is coming, like get it on your radar. Even if they can't teach it, just to be like, hey, nudge, there's so many resources. Ignorance is a choice in this day and age, you know what I mean? So,
but and especially that kind of that personal touch has certainly opened up additional avenues for you there in that respect in terms of. Oh,
yeah. Well, okay. Here's a good example. So the University of Pittsburgh, that some alumni from their MBA program contacted me a few months ago. One of them was in the DigiByte community and contacted me and said they wanted to do something like a meetup through the University of Pittsburgh through their MBA program. And so I've been in contact with them trying to work that out. And there's a new center that just opened up, and the director of that center, and the center is to support, like, it's like the MBA program for STEM people, so these are all highly technical, they have highly technical businesses, but it's like their continuing ed kind of community. And so they had just opened that up, and at first the director was kind of like, I don't know, like what you guys want to do here. And the more they kind of talked about it, they're like, we need a physical community for these people to come in and learn. And we need to just start these forums and start these physical communities. And then it was like, okay, yeah, now I get it. So it's like people need to come somewhere. They need to look in someone's eyes. They need a business card. They need a LinkedIn. They can't, you're not going to approach the next wave with the name like Crypto Slut 69 on Twitter, but behind some, like,
well, I mean, some things, but
well, I mean, yeah, you saw your bathwater, maybe, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I saw that one day. A girl was seriously selling her bathwater. Well, she said she was a girl. Who knows? But
apparently she sold out too. So I mean, that's what was scariest. Jeepers. But I mean, that's some.
How do you sell out of bathwater? Just take another bath. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, it is some entrepreneur skills. If hey, look.
I mean, really, I'm impressed that someone can make a living that way, man. I wish I was that creative. Yeah. But so no, I think it just comes down to it just comes down to creating that physical space, and that's why I say go to your schools, go approach those schools and say, hey, can I have a classroom for a couple hours on Tuesday evening or on a Saturday afternoon or something that works with the school, and to me, any school that hosts something like that is just showing their own innovative spirit and true dedication to education for their communities. So I think the schools and school administrators especially that know about this technology and are ignoring this and ignoring the amazing amount of resources they have access to for their community to support education, that's irresponsible. So it's like if you're an administrator and people don't have to go begging for that space, but just say, hey, I've got this space, let me help the community. We got to all start working a little harder.
So in terms of starting the snowball, planting the seeds, would you say that if somebody's watching this right now and they're wanting to get involved and help their community and help the world and help it to grow, would you advise them more to go and start up that kind of a meetup rather than going straight towards the education system?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. I think that you can kind of, just see what's out there in your community. I would say, just do it real simple at first. Just get on meetup.com or go on like your local news site where you can have events listed and just say, hey, there's a group of us that want to talk about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. We're going to meet at this place at this time. It doesn't have to be, it could be a networking one for the first couple just to see who's coming out of the woodwork in your community.
Right. Yep.
And then once you kind of see what you're dealing with, then you're like, okay, what do we got now? Because like I said, someone might own a business and they're like, I have a company, we've got some meeting space, you can have our meeting space. Someone might have a printing company and they're like, we'll print up materials for you. You just don't know like what people have until you kind of just kind of be like, hey, I'm here. Let's all get together and see what we got. You know what I mean? And it's not about like, it doesn't have to be DigiByte specific. In fact, it's like, DigiByte people start meetups, but we talk about everything. Do I find a way to slip DigiByte in? Yeah. But I like to hear about other projects and see what they're doing, see what's working, see what they're struggling with. And,
Sure.
We're all just kind of figuring it out. So I would say just start simple and don't be scared. I was scared the first time I did one where I was just like, what if nobody shows up? I can't tell you how many times that I've had like, crypto coffee on Saturday morning and I sent it out to the meetup group and I'm like, okay, here I go, and I was the only one sitting there having coffee, or, foo bar at a fun bar where we all share our terrible stories and I was the only one sitting there having a drink. Sometimes you're going to be sitting there by yourself and that's okay.
Yeah.
Eventually you won't be, so you just have to hold the space until they come.
Yeah, and especially seeing as I've seen you've done video chats like you mentioned, and I've seen you fill a place pretty damn well, and it grows and it evolves, and it how important do you think? So you mentioned coffee. How important is social lubricant, alcohol, coffee, whatever?
That's I'm so glad you brought that up because. And I don't mean to be a Judge Judy or anything. I mean, I told you right before this that I was drinking whiskey. So, I'm not a prude. But when we had our meetup in Wilmington, it was sponsored by this incubator. They had an open tap there. So people could have, they gave us beer and pizza, once a month for our meetup.
That's cool.
And it was cool, but the one thing I noticed is there was definitely a couple of people who came that probably had a drinking problem. Do you know what I mean? And so then I always felt a little weird because then I was like, are they driving home? Because it seemed like, and not to be like everybody's mother, but I was just like a little like, oh, they're leaving our meetup. And so, and I mean, I have several family members who have a history of alcoholism, and for people who are struggling with that and for real, they can't go to places that have alcohol. I mean, it's a real hard, it's really difficult for them. So it cuts off a portion of the community. And when I'm having a meetup, I don't want anybody to feel that they can't come.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Especially if it is a broader crypto catch up.
Right. You want them to bring their kids. You want them to bring their grandmothers. You want them to come to a space to learn. But I definitely think, like we have an after party after our meetup where we'll all go sit and have a glass of wine or have beer, but it's not about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think I like it. I mean, I think blockchain's only properly discussed if I'm half drunk. But
that's when the creative juices start flowing.
That's when I feel smart. So it takes me about 2 or 3 beers to be like, I'm smart enough to talk about this now. But so no, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think that there's also, depending on what it is you're trying to do,
Sure.
A bar is always the easiest place though, because you can just call a bar and be like, hey, you don't have a band playing right now? Hey, everybody, let's go down to this bar for the next 2 hours.
Right.
You know what I mean? So those are really easy places to get. And I don't even think there's anything wrong with doing that initially, like when you're trying to like get your group. Let's be like, hey, let's all meet. Anybody interested in this space and this technology? Let's meet at this bar at this time, and let's see how many of us are in town, and let's grow something.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I like to separate.
I mean, you can
math
still
would
do
be
it
a lot more
coffee though.
Right. Oh yeah. I think coffee's great. I think it's hard to find that sweet spot because everybody's so busy. So it's like during the week is hard because people are coming after work and it's always a rush. During the weekend is hard because they are all making plans because they're so rushed during the week that they don't have it. So it's just like, it's good to try to, I found to balance, but.
Do you do some on the weeknights and some on the weekends, or do you mostly just kind of shoot for the weekends and hope for the best?
Well, right now we're doing, because of the space we're using in Pittsburgh, right now we're doing it like last Thursday of the month. So we're trying to do it so that people could take a Friday off if they came and spend the weekend, because Pittsburgh is pretty cool. I'm a total Yinzer. So I love Pittsburgh. So it's a really fun place to come and just there's so much to do here. So we were trying to make it so people could make a long weekend of it. But yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things we talk about doing is like maybe as our group grows, do a survey, and give like some dates and try and optimize our dates. But we're just a few months in, so. Is
that enough notice? Is 4 weeks, so let's say I'm sitting down afterwards, I mean, not me specifically, but if somebody's watching this and they're going, cool, I'm excited, I'm going to do it, is 4 weeks enough notice? Do you think they could get by with 2 weeks? Or, like, how long do people need to give notice for before the actual event to make sure people can attend, especially given we've got Christmas around the corner, Christmas parties?
What I like to do, and I found this works, is try to, as far as it really depends on your advertising, your marketing. So like if you're really marketing it hard, a couple weeks, that's usually plenty, But the thing what I like about doing like a regular monthly meetup is that when people expect like, okay, last Thursday of every month, there's probably going to be something happening around that time. They kind of get it into their brain to kind of naturally schedule it in if they're interested. We have a guy who, he and his wife make a date night out of it, and they drive from Ohio for all of our meetups, and it's like an hour and a half drive for them. But they just come, every time. They haven't missed it. Big DigiByte fan, by the way. Hey, Justin, big DigiByte fan. So anyway, yeah. So I think as much time as you can give them, but I think if you can be consistent, where it's like, okay, last Thursday of every month, or first Tuesday of every month, or second Saturday of every month, you just kind of have something that people can count on. And as much as you can kind of keep it and to plan out, like I like planning out like 3 months in advance. Like we've got John Moore coming on the 21st, and we've got 2 other speakers that we're lining up for December and January. So we know also like kind of like what you're doing with DigiByte and Friends, you're kind of spreading out the topics, which is really nice. I think you do a really nice, broad, but interesting and relevant topics. It's kind of that same thing, like, so like maybe around March, we'll get in a CPA to talk about taxes. You know what I mean? So it's like, just try to what's relevant and coming up that it should be on people's radars. Yeah. So that's why, like, we're doing John Moore is coming to talk about, Johnny Litecoin is coming to talk about point of sale systems. Nice. And, how businesses can accept cryptocurrencies and, kind of the benefits of it. And he's doing that, November 21st. So right before, the holiday season.
Nice.
So to educate, and we're trying to get the word out to our local businesses to come learn. We're not saying you have to do it, but it's free. It's free marketing.
Yeah.
And everybody's helping you for free just to get this thing started. So this is a huge opportunity for anybody who's not implementing it yet. Huge opportunity.
Well, I mean, it's. I've actually been talking with John Moore as well. He's already confirmed. So after the Litecoin Summit, he wants to come and have a chat on DigiByte and Friends as well. So again, I'm super excited about that, and I'm glad that he's going to be coming to talk with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, I went to I went with Jen from Change Angel, and we met the Popcoin. We met Josh from Popcoin and helped him with his booth at the AVENT conference in DC a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
And John actually spoke on one of the panels there. And so we got to hang out because we've been chatting online for 6 months. But so we got to meet in real life. And we had a blast. Oh, yeah. We had an absolute blast. Man, he is smart as hell. He is a smart guy. So it was really fun. So, yeah, I'm excited for people in Pittsburgh to get to meet him.
Well, so in terms of with you running your meetups and things like that, how important would you say it is to have something planned, like a speaker, versus if you're starting out just having a meet up in general? What's the...
I think it's I don't know what the formula is. I think it depends on your community. So you might be in a college town, it's a younger community where, they might be approached differently, where they're we want more networking. We want more just kind of a loose conversation, or you could be in Pittsburgh, it's kind of more business people that are interested in coming. And so they want something a little more structured. And so we have an agenda, and, we're a little bit I would say ours is geared, we try to keep it broad enough for the community, but we're kind of business, both Rebecca and Josh and I, we're all professionals in our fields. So ours is kind of more businessy.
More structured, I suppose.
More structured. Yeah, I guess businessy isn't a word. Can you bleep that out?
You're a teacher. I mean, I guess it's math versus...
I ain't no spelling teacher. So yeah. I think it just depends on your community. And so I would say just, if you could just get a few people who are into all of this technology with you and just be okay, guys, what do you think we should do? And then you can survey your community and find out what do they want to learn about? And that's what we did. We found out, are you interested in investment and mining? I would say, first of all, never, ever give investment advice. If we talk about investment, we would have a talk about how to make sure you're not investing in a scam. You know what I mean? It would be an educational, we've all been burnt in the space. This is what we learned.
Stay away from the pyramid schemes, the Ponzi schemes.
Right. It's some really big heads up, just kind of life lessons type thing that we would share with the broader community just coming into this space. But we would never be I think DigiByte's going to be $5 in the next 3 weeks. You should buy now, so. Come
on, we know it's going to take 4 weeks, not 3.
I know. It's coming. It's coming. Oh my gosh, when DigiByte's $5, we should have a cruise. Everybody's talking about these cruises.
We'll do a DigiByte cruise.
Oh my gosh, that would be a freak show. I mean, and I love our community, but it would be a freak show.
Maybe then we could sell some of that bath water and yeah.
By then we'll be drinking bathtub gin and living on the high. But no, so yeah, I would say, make sure you don't give any investment advice. Sure. And I would, another word of caution is, the next run, every wave brings a new level of scam, people.
Yeah.
And I did have people, especially when our meetup started getting bigger, wanting to come and basically sell something or solicit to our members. And so I'd be really very, very careful about, just kind of really vet people as much as you can, make it clear that there's no solicitation of your members. I've had people ask me for our email list, of our members, and I was like, absolutely not. So, kind of take into account what you really are doing is building a community, and because you're the nucleus of that community, there needs to be kind of as much as you can, circle the wagons around that community and protect them, because there are going to be people who, and I've seen them. I've seen meetups where they're like, oh, we're going to learn about this. And then you go in there and they're like, bye, or be part of this. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? I thought we were just going to learn here. Yeah. So, just, we actually have a speakers agreement that we wrote up because I was trying to get Andres Antonopoulos to come to our meetup in Wilmington.
Nice.
And he said one of the things is agreement, talk about the community won't, the speaker will be a certain caliber, the community will be a certain caliber. Sure. And so those, just kind of lay that out. And I think that's also good because, if you get somebody who wants to speak and you're like, okay, you look okay, but you have to sign the speaker's agreement and they read through it. It's like, well, you can't solicit, you can't this, you can't,
nice.
It's like, okay.
Setting some standards, really.
Setting some standards is always really, especially in this space because we're setting the rules now. This is also new. We're the rule setters. We're setting that, the level of discourse.
So what's the best thing about both being a teacher and about starting this kind of a meetup? What have you enjoyed the most about it?
Learning. I mean, I learn more than, because what we're doing is we're bringing people in, you know what I mean? It's like, come talk to us. I mean, I actually don't, I do every once in a while I'll speak at them, but usually not much. I'm usually the audience.
Nice.
And
that's
so
cool
just like
you can participate in it as well and receive and learn as well as
exactly. It's definitely a sage on the guide on the side, not a sage on the stage kind of situation where you're just kind of like, you're just saying, okay, I know some people in the space and I know enough about the space to know some of the topics that people need to know. So let's just get them to talk to the people that we want them to talk to. And so, just like when you came and talked about DigiByte, I learned so much more about DigiByte by being able to talk with you. And that was only 2 weeks after I joined the community. So, being able to just set a space where people could pipe in and share their knowledge. I love the opportunity to learn. And I would say for me, the thing I enjoy the most is that we're so early that you can get access to people who are at the nucleus of these projects.
Yep.
You're talking to the people who are managing the chains. You're talking to the people who are like experts in mining of the algorithm they're mining. You're talking to people who are extremely knowledgeable because we're so early. We have access to all you guys. And it would be like being able to, being able to talk about any of the, talk to Bill Gates when he was still not, I'm not a huge Bill Gates fan personally, but when he was still in the garage, you know what I mean? Like being able to talk to these project leaders while they are in the beginning stages of the evolution of the projects that they're envisioning. I just think that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's my favorite part.
To be able to talk directly with the developers and have that kind of discussion with them, to be able to offer that kind of feedback as well.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
That's the cool thing to me. That's the cool thing about decentralization. That's what really drew me into also to DigiByte was you guys are so open with everything. So all these Telegram channels that it's like you have a developers channel on Telegram that's open. And I went in there. I don't talk unless I'm asking you guys a question, but I watch the conversation and it's crypto porn. You know what I mean? It's like, you're just watching like problem solve after problem solve, and sometimes it can get really heated in the debate, which I think is also like important. It's the nitty gritty. It's like the cage match of working through the problems, And so I love watching that in real time and watching that evolve, and you can just get in there and ask a developer a question about a digi asset, or about, why did this lit on my wallet, or and you're just getting the answers, and everybody's so generous with their knowledge. It's really exciting.
Absolutely agree. And I suppose the main reason why people get so passionate is because they are excited and they believe in it, and yeah. I suppose if we were to kind of wrap this up, what would one piece of advice be for you to give to somebody who's looking to start up something? Like one kind of word of encouragement to, what would you say to them?
We need you. we need you to do it. Like whether you're a fan of DigiByte or a fan of Litecoin or Vergecoin or Vertcoin, or it doesn't matter the project that you're passionate about. You're passionate about this for a reason. Like, what was it that ignited you? Like, for me, it was the idea that my daughter didn't grow up in a centralized world. That's what ignited me. And it just hasn't stopped. And so, you've got to tap into that passion and then take it, take an action. And we need, whether it's dropping a seed card, whether it's starting a meetup, whether it's, wearing your DigiByte hat to the coffee shop. I mean, don't miss an opportunity to educate, and don't underestimate yourself. And you are connected to an entire community of people who want to help you help other people. So you're not alone. You can reach out to any of us on the team. You go into the main channel and say, I'm thinking about doing this. And the amount of support and help you'll get, you will be overwhelmed. So, follow your heart, do what you feel driven to do, but we need you to help. We need everybody to help.
I love it. It's brilliant. What a great way to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on DigiByte and Friends. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to catch up with you, if they want to find out about some of the classes that you've been involved with, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
On Telegram, I'm L Taylor Math, and on Twitter, I'm LT Loves Digi, DIGI. So you can find me there. I'm on Twitter probably too much. My teenage daughter told me I'm on Twitter too much, so that's probably a bad sign.
Mom, you're showing me up. I can't even have as many followers and likes as you're getting. Help. Yeah. Look, thank you so much, though, for coming on here. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for all of your insight and your wisdom and knowledge around teaching people and starting meetups and helping people to learn more about crypto. This has been an absolute pleasure, so thank you so much.
Well, it was my pleasure. Well, I owe you one since you popped into my classes and my meetup. The least I could do is come on your show. So thank you too, Josiah. I really appreciate it.
It's brilliant. This has been an absolute honor. So thank you again. And to all of viewers, I hope you've enjoyed this. Feel free to reach out in the comment section below. If you have any questions, I'll pass them on as well to Laura. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.